Hello. Hi.
Yeah. Hi, Tejaswini. Good evening. A very good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you able to listen me?
Yeah, yes. 1 second. I don't know why I'm unable to start my video. Can I rejoin?
Yeah. Sure. No issues. Okay.
1 second. Let me just leave and rejoin again.
Yeah. So, good evening, everyone. I welcome you all to yet another session of My Captain Power Talks. So, today we'll be having the session on the topic how to write in online news media. And I really hope that you all must be excited as me for this session. So, our panelist will be joining in a couple of minutes. So, she's Tejaswini. She's the author of India's Global Leader, the first definitive biography on N. Chandrababu Naidu. So, I welcome Tejaswini as well as all attendees to this amazing webinar. So my name is Pushkar. I'm from My Captain, and this webinar is in collaboration with QFUS. So QFUS is a mentorship platform that provides mentoring support as well as guide individuals in the journey. Also, QFUS hosts coaching and workshops on different topics to enhance the skills. So I'll be sharing the link of the website in the chat box so that you can guys can have a look at the website. Also, just a reminder, if you have any questions during the webinar, you can post them in the Q&A box, and we will be taking all the questions at the end of the session when we have the Q&A talk. I hope.
Yeah, hi. I am back, but it says that the host is not allowing your video. So,
just give me a second.
yeah.
Yeah, sure. Can you just check in right now?
Yeah, 1 sec. Still same thing because the host has stopped it, it says.
Can you try right now?
1 second.
I hope my fit too.
Yeah, can you see me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Tejaswini. Very good evening. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. So, how's lockdown going on?
Good. So far, so good.
Okay, that's really nice. So it's really amazing to have you on a platform. We'll be just waiting for 2 more minutes so that more and people can join in because usually it takes about 2 to 3 minutes after the time to
Right.
join in.
Yeah.
Yes. So how's life going on right now? Like how's the media work going on?
Good. Media wise, it's fine. Otherwise, there is a little bit like I have a startup. So on that side, it's a little bit low because of the lockdown and stuff.
Lockdown. Yes.
So yeah, everyone's, I think, affected in different ways because of the lockdown.
Yeah. So any major learnings or like new things that you have done in this lockdown?
Oh, yes. So I have started a lot of inward looking, which is a lot to do with meditation, mindfulness, and stuff.
Okay. That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, so that's one thing. And I'm glad I'm able to read a lot of books now. Earlier, I would crib about it. Now, at least I have the time to do that and learn a lot of other courses and stuff. So,
Like we can say
it's,
that lockdown has been very much productive for you in a
oh,
way.
yes. Yeah.
Because
I'm
it has
learning
been a mix for
things.
people. Like for many people it was productive, but for others, like for me, I'm myself a CS student. So from morning till evening, our college is only getting up, and I'm not able to get in any time for like doing meditation or some other stuff. So
Right.
our college is like biting us so hard.
I think that's a time. It's a little bit dicey to find that kind of time and stuff
Yes,
at
definitely.
a place where you are in right now in life. So
Yeah, that's a bit difficult right now.
I understand.
Yeah, so we'll just, I think, yeah. So we'll just begin with the webinar.
Yeah.
So can you just introduce about yourself a little bit?
Yeah. So I am currently working as a communications consultant.
Okay.
And what I do specifically is the areas I work in are media, politics, and governance. And I have also worked in the social sector and private sector. Primarily, most of it includes writing, research, campaign
Yes.
strategy, and things like that.
Okay.
So yeah, that is what I do. I also work with think tanks,
Okay.
and I do communications work for them. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. So, as you just mentioned, you're also the co-founder of the startup Scribble. So, can you just tell us about the organization and what you guys work on?
Yeah. So Scribble is a seed funded startup.
Okay.
Basically, what we do is creative communications, and it has everything to do with content and research. So basically, everything related to content strategy, writing, research, planning. It also includes campaigns and stuff. So our clients are corporate, again, media, then
Okay.
education. So we have different kinds of clients from the social sector too. So that's about Scribble. We're
Okay.
still growing. We founded it in 2019.
Okay.
My friend and I, who was my classmate in college.
Okay.
So that's how Scribble happened to both of us. Both of us are again journalism students. So
Okay.
we understood the niche of how there is no quality based writing across the board,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the corporate sector and stuff. There's a lot of copy paste happening. So we understood there's an opportunity there.
Yes.
Also, our specialization lies in research.
Okay.
So, given that both of us are journalists and we have done a lot of long form stories and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it was much easier for us to also have that kind of background additionally, apart from just understanding the whole content sector and that thing. So
Okay.
that's
That's
how
pretty.
Scribble works.
Okay. So that's, I can say, the model, the basic model of Scribble.
Yeah, and we actually right now we are at a stage where we have only project based freelancers,
Okay.
because that's a better way for us also
Okay.
to keep it a satellite. Otherwise, it's going to be really liable, a big liability for us.
Yes.
So
Yes.
since
Yes.
we are small, we have project based writers who help us from across India.
Okay. So, what was the like basic idea, or like what suddenly stuck in your head that you want to go with Scribble and you want to
So
start it?
I was actually working at a edtech company. I also have a background in working in the edtech sector.
Okay.
And when I was working there, I was heading a team from the communications and content side of it.
Okay.
And I saw how a lot of things could be managed just by proper uniform processes and setting up a proper system and deciding, making good decisions first.
Okay.
So the edtech company that I worked at, there was a lot of top management tussle and things like that, and
Okay.
because of which the decisions were getting delayed, and everyone around was really morally down and things like that. So the
Yes.
team
Yes. I got
morale
it.
was going down, and that's when I also understood that I could do something on my own, because I was running a team and I was able to execute the tasks that I had in hand, and I was very free to do those things.
Okay. Okay.
So apart from the whole the management troubles and challenges that I had, I still got work done and did my own work pretty well, my side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when I also realized that I've by then I was freelancing for 4 years.
Okay. Okay.
So I was consulting and freelancing, and that's when I thought, okay, why not just have my own startup, because I also understood a lot from the content background of it.
Okay.
So that's when I came back to my city and set up my own startup. That's how things happened.
Okay. So, like, basically being in the market and getting the
Yeah.
things that gave you that kick, or you can say that passion to start Scribble.
Yeah, basically understanding what's lacking and
Okay.
what I can do, plus
Okay.
proving my own capacity.
So bridging the gap, we can say, like the
Yes.
void which was there basically.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. So you've also worked at the intersection of media, politics, and governance as a communications consultant. So, like, what was the role of journalism in, like having different fields like politics and government sector?
Yeah. So, being a journalist by profession, it helped me gain a lot of skills that I would otherwise not have gained. For
Okay.
example, say in-depth research, or something like looking at a subject and analyzing it, and understanding issues from the other side that people usually, there's a lot of propaganda in politics and the whole
Yes,
government
yes,
sector and stuff.
yes,
So
yes.
how you can get past the propaganda and look at issues from what they actually are.
Hmm.
That was something I learned through journalism. So the
Okay.
opportunity was more a serendipity in terms
Okay.
of the one that I got to work
Okay.
as a communications officer at
Hmm.
AP Chief Minister's office,
Okay.
because that was when I was freelancing for Al Jazeera.
Okay.
And suddenly there was this senior journalist who said, why don't you, like, there's a part-time role in Chandrababu Naidu's office. That was
Mm-hmm.
also the time soon after bifurcation of the Telugu states happened.
Okay. Okay.
So then they said that there was this role for social media, it's part-time, would you like to try? So
Okay.
I said, okay, fine. And I just went, and I wasn't prepared in any way, and I didn't know it was an interview, but it was just like a 5-minute interview where they had the background about me, they had done the research about me, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And within 5 minutes, they were like, will you join tomorrow?
Okay.
So that was all. That decision was tough because I was putting my journalism career at risk, because
Interesting.
when you are going into a political government setup, you
Mm-hmm.
generally would be branded as belonging to a certain political party.
Yes, yes, definitely.
So that risk was there, but on the other hand, I also got the opportunity which people my age wouldn't have got then.
Mm.
So I just took it, and that was one of the best risks I've taken ever till now,
Okay.
I can say,
Okay.
professionally,
Okay.
because that gave me a complete different exposure into government and politics, which from the media side I couldn't see.
Okay.
Like when you're in the media,
Mm.
given that it is the trait of the profession to have that sort of objectivity but not believe everything that comes your way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes.
But when I went into like when I saw things within the government, I also understood that government actually, I had a very positive perception about the government. A lot of things within changed.
Okay.
And I also saw how at the bottom to the top, how good decisions can drive good change, positive change
Yes.
across the board,
Okay. So,
provided
like,
you have
as
good
in the
leadership.
other side of the government, which is like
Yes, yeah,
inaccessible to common people, we can say.
exactly. So a lot of my myths also were broken. On the
Okay.
other hand, I also got to see what kind of media propaganda happens uh, by being within the government. For example, if we wrote certain press releases, they would be manipulated to suit the media's agenda, media house's
Okay.
agenda.
Okay.
So I saw that side of the media too by being
Okay.
in the government.
So,
So it
like,
was
what feeling that gave you, like, when you got to know that reality, like, this is happening in our country?
like see, to be honest, it's just a learning. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously you will feel a certain, you would be disappointed or something, but over a period you just understand that that's how things work,
Yes, yes, yes.
and you just have to accept things that way, because right now the media atmosphere in the country is very, I can
Shady,
say,
we can say.
biased. Biased
Yeah.
in different ways.
In different ways.
I wouldn't like to point out anything, but yeah,
Mm.
there is a certain very clear indication that there is hardly any objectivity left except for a few independent media houses.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, that's exactly how my journey from media to politics, governance, and everything in between happened. And
Mm.
that was a great exposure because I was the youngest person in the chief minister's office when I was working there.
Okay.
So I also had the advantage of being there right in the power center, understanding things from my own perspective. So yeah, that was a good opportunity.
So any plans of like going in the politics or something
No
after
way.
that?
No way. That's not my thing.
Okay, because I thought, like you might have got that taste and that flavor, and now that might have, inculcated a bit of a passion
No,
or
but
something.
there's also something I realized when I was seeing that power is addictive when you actually see the negative side of power. You really, it's a very scary thing. So I saw both sides.
Yeah.
So I understood that I'm not someone who belongs in that field. So yeah.
Okay. So it's like, in a nutshell, it was a pretty roller coaster ride, but you enjoyed the ride a lot.
Yeah, it's a good challenge, I can
Good
say.
sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So like now coming back to the topic of writing online news media. So like we have a lot of attendees who are from journalism background or who aspire to be a journalist. So what according to you are the basic skill set or skills which are required to be a journalist?
So these are very basic ones that I'll be talking about, but they are the core of journalism.
Okay.
One would be your ability to understand things happening around you, like grasping current issues, having good knowledge of them. That is one thing, because if you don't know what's happening around you, it's very difficult as a journalist to make sense of it. So the second thing is coherence in a way that when you see or listen to a certain story, you should be able to clearly understand and put your thoughts on it, because when you're representing it to the audience or the people, you have to communicate it very clearly. So that's something, a coherence in thought is what matters the most, because if you're not able to present a story the way it is or the way it should be, it can be conveyed in a very wrong way. Like we see that day in, day out in the media.
Yes.
So it you have to be responsible for what you say or do.
Like the news was originated for some different cause, but when it reached to the masses, it became
Yes,
something else.
It becomes something else. So what? Well, you really can't. Like when you said that, I think there are different mediums in between that change it to the propaganda stage. But your message has to be clear so that when you are held accountable for a certain story, you have the confidence to put your story out in the way that you wanted it to be. And the third thing I would say is the ability to be objective in any given time. Reason being, you are very likely nowadays, because as journalists, even we are human beings, so we would have personal opinions about everything and anything. But you should also be aware that a certain objectivity will always give you that sort of authenticity and make you stand out. So whether you have your personal biases or whatever it is, being objective is the most important thing, because that will also help you present your story in a better way without you inserting your personal opinions into the story. So that's one thing. And obviously, I would say these are three basic things that you should have as a journalist. Yeah.
So like with the passage of like with a couple of years, we can say maybe the journey of content has changed a lot. Like earlier, the niche or the genres in which we used to read has been completely changed. So what are your opinions on that? Like how the journey of the content has been changed with the passage of time?
Do you mean in journalism or just content in general?
Content in general, as in, but particularly if you want, you can like have in journalism.
So anyone who's doing journalism actually can also venture into multiple fields. It's like you just said, content is now such a diverse group of areas that you can enter any field, and actually being a journalist and entering that kind of content background will actually give you a greater skill set rather than those who are just, entering the field without any experience in journalism or writing or anything.
Okay.
The reason I'm saying this is because as a journalist, you already have gained a certain skills. For example, your network,
Yes.
your sources, the kind of writing style that you have, or the reporting style that you have, the kind of in-depth analysis or research that you do, and the kind of knowledge you gain by doing these stories, because you as a journalist are required to do multiple kinds of topics. There is definitely something called beat, which is a specific area that you would be focusing on as a journalist, which media houses assign. But on an average, say a journalist with 5 to 6 years experience at least would have worked on a diverse number of topics. So the knowledge and the resources that you gain through the process of journalism or reporting is huge. Like you really can't measure it in terms of the value it adds when you're entering the content sector. So yeah, it's a very huge thing, because when it's content, you can get into anything. You can get into journalism, of course, print, broadcast, radio, and now you can also get into digital news media and multimedia and stuff. Then you also have, if you're someone who's really interested in photography and stuff, then photojournalism is one thing. Or just photography, commercial photography, those are other things. Then if you're really interested in camera work and stuff, again, news is one thing, but you can also get into filmmaking, documentary making, and the other parts of it. Then there is, again, if you're interested in radio, you can either go RJing if you like that, or you can be on the sound engineering part of it, audio production part of it. Then there's also advertising and PR, where you can get into copywriting and, all
like
that.
it's basically a diversified sector, we
Yeah,
can say.
like you can at least easily, I can think of 10 to 15 fields which you can enter when you are a journalist or someone who's done mass communication. Because you can either go into acting if you like theater or anything like that. So there are multiple fields. You can also go into the edtech sector or education sector, where there's books, there's writing, there's the edtech sector is a mix of both now.
Yes.
And of course, there's social media also, which is there in
Yes.
every field.
Yes.
So for a journalist, it's not just journalism, but it's a huge market out there, which is highly competitive, of course. But still, there are a lot of opportunities. I don't think any other sector would offer so many fields to enter into.
And earlier, I think, like if we take the example of like 5 to 6 years before, now like 2015 or 2010 also, I think at that time we were not having those many opportunities as we have now.
Yeah. So I graduated in 2011.
Okay.
And that was when digital media was just happening.
It's happening. Yes.
But it was so much in the nascent stage that we were hardly being paid. I was freelancing even during college. So it was hardly anything. But then the focus was not money or anything. So the experience of writing and seeing your article published and stuff, that was more important then. But yeah, now it has changed a lot, because a journalist should not just be a journalist now. He or she has to be good with social media, good with camera handling, recording stuff, then giving voiceover, then reporting, writing, everything. So you need multiple skills today to be a journalist than, say, for example, 15 years ago or something, where you could just write some story and editors would edit. No. So because it's become such a fast-paced world today, and you have to give stories by the minute, because by tomorrow it's a stale story. So no one's really interested in your story, and no one's waiting for your story till next day. So you also have to be very quick and smart. Yeah, smart to get things done quickly.
So like the students who are not from particularly from journalism background,
Right.
like even can they get into this field?
So journalism, that's a very good question. Actually, it's journalism is one field that actually doesn't consider qualifications. If I
Okay.
have to be very honest,
Okay.
because like when I was studying in my journalism college while doing my PG diploma, there were people who did engineering and came to study journalism.
Mm.
And then there were people who were not even connected or didn't know about journalism but got into journalism just because they were interested in current issues and stuff.
Okay.
But that was in college, so they
Mhm.
studied. But there is also this other segment of reporters who are just from any field,
Okay.
but mostly they are taken because either they have good writing skills or good reporting skills, or either of those skills,
Mhm.
and they could be a great resource to the organization.
Mhm.
So not necessarily that you have to have a journalism background, but if you do, it's always a great advantage for you. You can be, say, I think you can be into animation and still come into journalism, because both ways it helps.
Mhm.
I'm just giving an example.
Yes. So
So
like there's a scope we can say for
yeah,
the
huge
people.
scope, because see, every media house has almost all kinds of wings,
Yeah.
from cartoons to animation to everything, because today content is digital completely.
Mm.
So even if you are just a video editor and you're looking for a job in the media industry or in a media house, it is available.
Mm.
So it's not just that, only a journalist or someone with this background should do. And for example, even someone with English major
Mm.
or English lit background or publishing background or anything, advertising, anyone can enter. Like even engineers come. A lot of engineers are actually today reporters. Like a lot of people who have done engineering, environmental science, and stuff. So the best part is journalism, there's also a lot of segments in it. So there is
Mhm.
defense journalism, there is science journalism, there is environmental science,
Mhm.
climate change reporting and stuff. So there's multiple things. It's not just one single. Say, for example, you're good at finance
Mm.
as a resource, and you are good at writing. You would be a very good financial journalist or a business journalist. You know, so there are multiple things in it. It's not just, okay, if I have the skill, I'm going to be a reporter or a journalist. But yeah, it has multiple advantages as a profession.
I'm only able to see just advantages. So I can see like it's a very big, we can say like, a big balloon in which everyone can definitely, if they have a skill set or
Yeah, it's,
something. If they,
yeah, provided you have the skill set and you can compete in a very neck to neck sort of world, because journalism is, see, basically deadlines are sacrosanct in journalism. You have to abide by deadlines, and you cannot wait till the next day or after that or something like that. If the story has to be reported, say, in the next 2 hours, it has to be done. Like whatever emergency you have, no one cares.
we need to
That's,
submit on that particular
yeah,
deadline only.
yes. So that's a downside, but also I would say journalism is for someone who's if you're expecting a corporate kind of lifestyle, say a very comfortable 9 to 5 sort of happy-go-lucky sort of thing, then it's not exactly for you, because it's very fast-paced sort of work. So you have to be on your toes continuously. You don't know where you'll get a call from whom, because you have to go, or something happened and there's a national emergency, some sort of thing, or a natural disaster or something. So you may have to wake up in the midnight and just rush to report or to the scene or whatever. So it's that kind of thing. If it's journalism, if it's media in general, for example, if it's something like, if I have to say your story, for example, I can think of, It's more a little on the comfortable side of journalism, where you can schedule your interviews, and because it's focused mostly on startups and businesses and
Businesses.
stuff,
Yes.
it's a completely different kind of journalism. So you don't really require a journalism degree for that kind of thing. So yeah, if it's again magazines and stuff and hard news, like the newspapers, broadcast media, TV and stuff, then it's a different thing altogether. Yeah.
So, like as you said about the transition from print media to online media, so my next question is regarding that only. So, like, what are your thoughts on the news media being getting shift from print to online?
So personally, if I have to talk, I am a huge fan of fine print.
Okay.
I would love to read something in the newspaper or say for the book and stuff. But given the way the world is changing today, and like I said earlier, people don't have to wait so long for something till the next day and then read it in the newspaper and stuff. So that way, I think print is eventually going to fade out, and the future is definitely digital.
Digital.
And digital itself will undergo a huge transformation, because right now what we are seeing is, like I said again, a journalist is not only a journalist. He or she has to be social media savvy. He or she has to understand the writing for global audience, keep himself or herself updated with trends, the ongoing trends. Then another thing, key factor in all of this I see is they would also maybe in future have to learn digital marketing. Maybe not fully digital marketing in terms of promotion and stuff, but say for example, what happens in content like SEO, search engine optimization. So looking at those keywords and stuff which they have to insert in the story. Some media houses are doing that.
Okay.
But I think journalists will have to upskill themselves in these areas in future, because right now that's not a prerequisite for any journalist, and not many also require a very a social media presence, or they're not social media savvy yet, some of them, but most are now. So, and it's not a compulsion, but I think in future these will be mandatory for any journalist, because today if you see, say in the past 10 years, how it's become is, a journalist is now a brand in itself.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, himself or herself, whatever.
Yeah.
So whether it's a print journalist or a new media person or a broadcast journalist or even an RJ, for example, they're a brand by themselves. If you go through their social media, they are the ones who have highest following also, apart from the celebs and that category, fitness influencers and stuff. Journalists are one group who have a huge following. So it's also a lot to do with, it's not just journalism or their profession that will come into play, but their personalities too.
Okay.
As people. So that kind of personal branding also will matter a lot in future, I feel.
Okay. So, like, I think this might be the linked question to the last statement you said. So, like, what according to you will be the future of journalism?
Like I just said, a lot of it is already digital.
Yeah.
But some of the media houses are still adapting to the whole digital platform thing. The future is basically going to be multiple skills, and a lot of it could be automated also, given that we have AI and machine learning and all that. So that way, journalism as a field also, there is a challenge of automation that's going to haunt a lot of people's jobs and stuff. So AI could automate a lot of story writing processes and stuff. It's already being done in some parts of the world, say Europe, for example, and the US, for example. So there is that threat to journalism. But on the other hand, given that you're interested, and if you are good enough with your skills, and you constantly keep upgrading your skills and do not wait and lag behind, basically, you will definitely survive. And not only that, but I think in today's world, anyone should have a side hustle.
Yes.
Okay, you just can't rely, given that we are so much in a very volatile situation with respect to our jobs and the whole market scenario.
Yeah.
I think everyone should take up some sort of a side hustle that will help them earn extra, even if, for example, they do not have a job tomorrow, or they're fired, or some sort of company shut off or something like that. So I see that happening because as someone who's been in this field and has over 10 years of experience, from day one of my journalism, I've always had a side project.
Okay.
Earning it. I mean, that was a thrill that I would enjoy. But there is also this challenge that a lot of media houses actually do not allow you are bound by a contract. So you can't work outside. In such cases, what students or anyone in the field can do is probably take up content writing projects.
Okay.
Because that way, what happens is you're also interacting with another completely different segment where you're building network again. So if not for this, you can always get that. So there's a good balance, and obviously, who doesn't want extra money, right?
Yes. Like,
so that I see a lot of journalists have already started this.
okay.
But this may go up a lot in the future, apart from the scope itself expanding, because like I said, there are multiple fields now you can enter. It's not just, if you do not want to be a journalist, there is also, again, politics, government. My own example I can give.
Yes.
For example, now the whole political party system and setup basically has opened up to this kind of talent, and they are willing to hire resources who are good with their subject and can bring value to the party in any way. For example, if you're good at writing, and you could be of help in terms of writing someone's speeches within a political setup. Then in the government setup, there's already government PR and communication for which you can directly help. So you can be part of the PR office, INPR departments, or there are multiple government departments who look for agencies who do content and stuff. So the scope is huge. Like, you just have to look for an opportunity and know exactly what you want. That is more important. If you're too bored of, say, such a serious sort of field, then you can always venture into advertising or animation or anything like that, which is, lighter and fun. And you can also enter gaming and content writing in gaming and stuff.
Yes. Gaming is really a like sector which is really, I can say, prospering very high.
Exactly. So that also is going to pick up. Now, if you see, I think COVID has clearly shown how EdTech is also growing.
Yeah, definitely.
So EdTech has huge content opportunities, huge opportunities in terms of writing and research and editing, proofreading. Every skill related to journalism is part of that. And even if you don't like all this and you just like all the glitz and glam, you can always enter the entertainment industry and still write about it, meet people, interview celebrities or anyone you like. Or if you like sports, you can get into sports side of interviewing, journalism, reporting, writing, just writing basically. So yeah, there's a huge scope, provided you know what you want. Yeah.
So like for all the people who are into college and they want to get into journalism, so what will be your tips and suggestions, like how they should start building their profiles or get with some projects or internships?
Generally, if you are part of any journalism college, They generally have a in-house publication.
Okay.
They have an in-house broadcast and radio station. And they
Okay.
also have an in-house magazine and a website for students.
Okay.
Like, for example, I studied in the Indian Institute of Journalism and New Media in Bangalore, where we had our in-house publication, which was like a weekly thing. And then it becomes a daily in the second sem, where it's more like a daily newspaper grind, which you have to go through. Same thing with the broadcast students who had to do weekly TV channel sort of news bulletins and stuff. And then there was radio stations where we gave out news through the radio, like that. Then there was a weekly magazine and a website, which would combine all this.
Okay, so this was the ecosystem, I can say.
Yes, yeah, it's a complete ecosystem.
Okay.
And every journalism student, if you're part of the colleges, basically, you do go through this, and all your work is around this. So basically, they'll throw you out into the city or the state that you're in, and you will have a very rigorous schedule of doing stories every week, getting them approved, getting the ideas approved by your professors or anyone, whoever is in charge. And then you'll have to work on the stories, go and build your sources and stuff. So one thing I would like to say is building sources is one of the most important skills in journalism. Because your network, the network you build in the first 5 to 6 years in journalism, is what is going to define your career. Because your sources will be yours, and you have a certain rapport with your sources. For example, if there's a natural disaster and you have to do a story, you are the reporter who's put on the job. You should know someone from the National Disaster Management Agency, either the commissioner or whoever, the secretary or whatever. Or you should be able to reach out to that person and build that contact. So that next time when you're going to that person, he or she is someone who identifies you and knows you through either your media house or you personally. So that in future, when you're actually reporting and then you're a sort of senior in journalism, it's much easier for you to just be in the media house in your office and still get a story done. So the first 3-4 years will be a good struggle, because it's all about building your network of resources and contacts and stuff. And that will later define a lot of what you're going to do as a journalist. So that's why senior journalists have a very good, that's their strength, basically, the sources. They can just call up any, for example, if there is some sort of political breaking news happening, they just call up someone who's a very good source within the political party. And even political parties do this. They basically break the news to one journalist they trust, or they want to give it to that media house, and they do that.
Okay.
So it's that kind of rapport also that matters. So the network is the most important thing. But when it comes to what happens in journalism colleges in terms of projects and stuff, you can start building your sources then.
Okay, at the college level itself.
Yes, yeah. Maybe someone can help you out, or what I would do as a trainee journalist, as a student in journalism college, was just look through the internet. Now, at least, we have their social media accounts, and you can reach out to them, and they're responsive that way. Earlier, it was not the case. We had to look through offices, go to the government department, then verify that fellow will not be there. I mean, the concerned person, he wouldn't be there, so we wouldn't know who to talk to. So these are the confusions that we had. But right now, you can either message someone, or you can directly go to the government website, because most of the information about the contacts or anything like that is updated now. And it's all digital. Like, most of these people have WhatsApp accounts and all that. So communication has become much easier now, because of which it's much easier to also develop your sources that way. And when it comes to projects, you can always write for independent media or media that, digital news websites or any website that you like. You can do a good research. For example, right now I can think of something like Youth Ki Awaaz.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Yes,
Youth Ki Awaaz accepts free content
okay.
as far as you log into it and get
Okay.
your credentials done. So Youth Ki Awaaz started when I was just trying to enter journalism. And that also helped me as a trainee journalist, as a student, because I would see the goal of any student in journalism would be just to get it published and see
Yes,
their
the
name.
primary goal we can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is also a win-win situation for both, because the news website is happy because they're getting a free content,
Yeah.
and the student is happy because he or she is very happy to see their byline on that article or story, and they can show it to anyone and everyone.
Yes, yes.
So that way they're also building their profile. So it's better to write to these free websites, because see, if they're offering you money for the article, it's great, well and good. But even if it's not at the student stage, you can definitely write for these free content accepting websites, because it's much easier to build your portfolio that way. Because when you're applying for a job, you can put these links on your published works, and that will give you more credibility than, say, someone who hasn't written any story. So you will always have an upper hand. And not only writing, but even if you do news stories, news bulletins and stuff, you can always do that. Like, for example, a lot of journalism students break good stories.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
But the reason they don't get reported is someone from the, I'm not saying this is, I'm not generalizing this, but it happens sometimes. They identify stories which are very, very novel and stuff, but senior journalists don't see it sometimes. But what happens is the senior journalist steals the idea from them, because
Yes.
he or she knows the same sources better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he or she gets a much detailed story than a student journalist, a trainee journalist, for example. So that way, students have an upper hand, because they can get anything published and still, have it as part of their portfolio. So all they have to look for internship opportunities. Even if, say, there aren't any internship opportunities, you can always write to a media house, because anyone is very responsive these days.
Yes.
So you can just write to them and ask if you can do an internship for a month or two, however long you can give. Or you can just write from home and ask them what topics they need for you to write on, and they would definitely respond. Or if you know anyone in the field, in like, for example, your professors itself, if you're studying in journalism college, that also will work. Mostly professors, the reason they don't really help with this is because they want you to find out
Yes.
in that stage.
Like they want basically us to excel.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in such cases, what you can do is, if you're not finding some sort of a person who's helping you out within your ecosystem or the surroundings that you are in, find a mentor online
Okay.
who's from the field.
Okay.
You write to at least 10-15 people. It doesn't have to be just from the country. It can be anyone abroad also. People nowadays respond on social media anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yes, absolutely.
So you never know. Maybe you'll have a very good journalist, senior journalist from abroad or within India as your mentor. You never know. So you can always intern with a journalist or with someone like an author or something, anything, whatever interests you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you earlier mentioned that, you have done a mass communication degree as well as PG diploma from Indian Institute of Journalism and New Media. So like, can you tell us about like, what was your experiences and the learnings from
Yeah.
there?
So as a journalist, I would say IIJNM was one of the best colleges.
Okay.
So I applied for 3 colleges actually when I was writing entrances, and I got
Okay.
through all the 3 entrances. But the reason I chose IIJNM was because of its practical experience, which was more like a newsroom experience, live newsroom experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything was so practical and everything you had to do on your own and stuff without being helped by anyone.
Mm.
So by the time we came out, we were so good at what we were doing, and almost all of us got hired.
Okay.
So it is that kind of experience. Basically, you are put into the battlefield
Mm-hmm.
and you're asked to do whatever it takes.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
how the college was. The
Okay.
best part is the curriculum that was there was based on Columbia School of Journalism in the US.
Okay.
And our dean, current dean, is actually was a professor there.
Okay.
So, and we also have foreign professors who keep visiting us and give us, who have worked with global and international media houses, who give us a world view of journalism, not just Indian journalism or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a continuous, upskilling that is required in terms of uh, learning new things, expanding your knowledge base, experimenting with things, and you basically have to do it. Like you don't have a choice. Practical is a practical. Maybe
Yes.
you have to. If, for example, if I have taken political reporting as my specialization,
Yes. Yes.
and I am asked to do a political story and do some analysis, I have to do. I mean, what I do is my problem,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to do it, and it has to get published also. It's not just that I have to do and be happy about it. No, it again gets published either in the newspaper or goes as a political story on the bulletin or on the radio or on the news website. So basically you're actually seeing your work get published immediately. It's more like the current situation of digital news media, where your input is there and you can also see your output.
Getting
So
instant results, we can say.
yeah, so most of the journalism colleges do this, but
Okay.
specifically because IIJNM is my alma mater,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
I am obviously partial, but I have also heard from other people across the country that IIJNM, the kind of practical knowledge it gives you in terms of working on the field and reporting, and even the projects that we are given for thesis and stuff, that is something I really don't see in other colleges. That level of training, the rigorous schedules that we have. So you always have to be on your toes. Like even as a student, there's no laxity you can show. So it's like a very grueling schedule you have.
Okay.
Though it's a 1-year program, it's very intense.
Okay.
The PG diploma.
The PG diploma.
Yeah, so I think now they've added a few more subjects,
Okay.
but yeah, more or less it's a very intense course and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So, basically, this was about your college experience. So, like, if anybody is interested to do PG in journalism, so like, what will be your suggestions for that person? Like, after being into the bachelor state, like, if anyone is interested in
Right.
PG. Yeah.
So one good thing about PG diploma or PG in journalism is you don't really have to have a background in journalism or mass comm for that matter.
Okay. Okay.
So you can apply if your application is really good and you seem like a worthy candidate. Any journalism college or university will take you. That's one thing. Second thing is you can always look at options like IIJNM, obviously, Asian College of Journalism, then Indian Institute of Mass Communication. Then there are also universities like Hyderabad Central University,
Okay.
and I think Amity is there across India. So there are different universities. So it'll also depend on whether you want to stay within your city or go out of your state or something like that. So if you're interested, you can actually apply for these. All of them have entrances, their own
Okay.
entrances.
Okay. Okay.
And most of it is based on your knowledge of current issues.
Hmm.
So it could be laws, it could be some sort of an issue on, for example, if I have to think of something, if I was writing a admission test right now, I
Mhm.
can think of topics like farm bills as one of the topic that could be asked. Or if then I could probably talk about elections.
Hmm.
Those could be the questions.
Okay.
Or something related to sports. So basically keeping yourself updated with the current events, and maybe having your own specialization or interest in a certain topics. For example, the reason I was able to do well on the politics and the government sector is because of my personal interest in politics.
Yes.
I was really into understanding parties, and I had very good knowledge of what were the regional parties, what was the central situation, situation in different states and stuff. I at least knew those things. So that actually helped me much more in terms of my
Okay. Basically,
experience.
you had a passion for that thing.
Yes, yeah. So whatever it is, if you have a certain interest in a certain specialization, it's always good to have that extra knowledge, because in future you may be that kind of a reporter. Like, you can get into, if it's development issues and rural reporting and stuff, then you can go into that specifically. So it will obviously give you an edge over others. Yeah.
So if I talk about the other side of your journey, so like what were the challenges and the difficulties that you faced being a journalist?
I can think of one very good incident that
Okay.
happened. It
Okay.
was a strange one. I was working for a mainstream media house in Hyderabad as a business reporter then. And I broke one story on how there's this big gaming company, and overnight they just shut shop and fired their employees.
Okay. Okay.
That was the story. And so I had to speak to their employees. I somehow managed to get one person's contact who was fired.
Okay.
And I thought I could at least get some sort of information. But
Okay.
what happened was that person's constant venting out and frustration and anger and all that. So I was at the receiving end, obviously.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Imagine if one of us were fired and someone is calling me and asking me what happened. It
Or
would
how
be
are you feeling, after you have
yeah,
been
exactly.
fired?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it'll be crazy, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that was how that person reacted. But
Okay.
I mean, I understood the situation anyway.
Mhm.
I listened to all of it. He was giving me left, right, and center, all kinds of galis and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
obviously, I do understand his situation. And after listening to it, somehow I managed to get information by, being empathetic towards his situation and stuff.
Mhm.
That is one sort of very weird challenge
Experience that
I
you had.
faced. Yeah, because
Okay.
after that, it sort of affected me because I was feeling bad for what happened and stuff. But still, I had to do my job as a reporter and do the story without, all my emotions getting into that story.
Into that.
So that was one thing. The
Okay.
second thing most journalists face is how not to bring their emotions and into their stories.
Okay.
For example, I can tell you, when I was doing a lot of human rights stories on sex workers, LGBTQ community, then on children and abuse, child sexual abuse, all this, when I do those stories, it's really heartbreaking to listen to their stories, because they're very moving, and some of them are very tragic, in fact. So you're so carried away by those stories that sometimes you emotionally pour everything into your story while writing it, or representing it.
Yes. 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 I got it.
So that's a huge challenge, because there you're confused professionally or personally whether you should how should I contribute to this person? On one side, you're fighting with yourself whether you can help this person personally. On the other side, there is this very practical side of mind which says that, okay, the best way you're helping this person is actually by representing and telling their story to the world, which is reaching a lot of people in the world. So your profession is what you're helping through. Sometimes, yes, obviously, if you want to help, that's your wish personally. But basically people get carried away by this. Another thing is a lot of sources try to manipulate you for their interests. Okay. There is especially it's very rife today because there is some sort of use with media in any setup. The moment you get media publicity, it's a big deal right now. So there is also this thing about how people manipulate you and get you to believe their story. But as a journalist, it is your job to find out what exactly happened and look at both sides of the story and then be practical and objective about the whole story and then report it. Because there is a high chance, especially in political government setups, business reporting and stuff, you may not know the exact story, but you may report it anyway. So there is a high chance of it going, it can backfire for your own media house. You may be liable. So yeah, these are three main challenges that I can recall of.
And like in a nutshell, if you can tell like what were the learnings from each of the incident?
To be honest, the firing incident, I understood you should never talk to a person who is fired.
Okay, like who is in a very big mess or in a very big trouble, because then obviously all that anger and that stuff will be will be the primary target for that.
Yes, yeah, and there is a way to deal with them. Obviously, that's also part of my learning. Second one is, I think, more than learning, I think it's about empathy. Empathizing with the situation when it comes to certain disadvantaged groups. What they don't need is sympathy. See, they are not here to gain your sympathy, but for you to represent them the way they want it to be. So that is something that most journalists get wrong. You don't have to show like, for example, in most of the disadvantaged group stories, a lot of it goes wrong in terms of where they show a rags to riches kind of story, or they create this whole drama around it. Not every story should have drama. Some especially do, but some really don't have to. I mean, you don't have to be the drama creator there. There is already enough drama in their lives.
Yes.
Okay, so all you have to do is represent it in the right way and create most impact from that. So that is something I don't see nowadays at all, because every journalist is a dramebaz now.
Yes, that's like.
So I think not hyping it too much and just presenting it the way it is with the best way you can,
like putting up basically in the realistic way, we can say, as much as possible.
More realistic and more impact. Yeah, reaching the right places and the right people. That's more important. Another thing is, I've also seen people in the haste to get a story, often they report things wrongly. So facts are gone in the story and they do not verify it. So the race to report it first than to report it right is one big malice I see in journalism. I mean, it's there everywhere. Now it's even more rampant, but I think it should be rather reporting it right than reporting it first. Because when you're in a hurry to report it first, you are not checking anything. You are just vying for something and trying to show your audience, and sometimes it can go very wrong. So yeah, these are my personal learnings.
Okay, that's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. So, moving on, like as I also mentioned in the introduction, that you are the author of the India's Global Leader, which is the first
Global
definite.
leader.
Sorry, it's Global, I
Global.
think.
Yeah, global leader.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So India's Global Leader, which is the first definitive biography of N. Chandrababu Naidu. So,
Right.
like, can you just tell us about the book and the venture? Like, how did the writing experience went?
So the experience was really eye-opener for me
Okay.
because that was my first book. I didn't
Mhm.
even have an experience of writing a book till then. And I
Okay.
didn't know how to start, where to start, and what was the process to do it and stuff.
Okay.
So research itself took me a year because I wanted to understand first how to write a book. And because it was a political biography, I was even more scared, basically. And the challenge was because I was writing on a sitting chief minister.
Mhm.
It's not something you can mess with.
Yes. Yes.
And that too, being young,
Yeah.
people are very dismissive about you
Yeah.
because they're like, okay, isko politics kya samajh mein aayega?
Yeah.
So that sort of thing. But so there were multiple challenges. Um, so journalism in this actually helped me a lot because of the entire research and writing skills that I had through journalism and my own understanding of politics in general. It helped me a lot in writing this book. So though the journey, I would say, didn't start in it started much before I even took up journalism.
Okay.
So basically, when I was a student in journalism, somehow I realized that there was no biography of N. Chandrababu Naidu, who was the former chief minister. And I thought, okay, let me just write to the political party and see if they will respond. And in 2011, as a student who was just out of college, I wrote to them some random idea I found on the internet. I had my basic research and I just wrote very happily saying I would like to write a book and stuff. But obviously, no one would respond because I don't have an identity and I'm just a student. And I don't even know if anyone checked those mails. So then what happened, somehow things changed and I got the opportunity to work as the communications officer at the AP chief minister's office. That was my complete exposure to this person. I mean, as a politician, as a chief minister, as a person also, as a human being also. So I was spending almost 10 to 12 hours a day around him.
Okay.
So it gave me a completely different insight of what generally gets reported about him. Because generally our perceptions of people are very different. Like we have a certain perception already without even seeing a person
Yes.
because of the news we hear or the things people say about them and stuff.
Yes.
So primarily that was my thing, to actually portray this person the way he is, not the way he is perceived by someone else or the media, for example.
Okay.
So that was the whole idea. And that's how I started the biography. Then eventually luckily, because they knew me and I worked in the chief minister's office, I took the permission from the party and I wrote the book. I did my entire research. I visited his village, his childhood friends, and everything in his life, basically the journey and stuff, including a lot of political leaders who are his friends and stuff. So yeah, it was a great experience because that after writing that book, I also became India's youngest political biographer.
Oh, that's
So
amazing. Congratulations on that.
thank you. So so that also broke the stereotype that politics or biographies, political biographies, are only understood and written by much older people.
Much older people, or what the
Yeah,
people who have
especially
higher
not a girl.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, especially not a girl.
Not a girl. Yes.
So
Okay.
yeah, it sort of shattered stereotypes. But yeah, it was a great thing, and it is all depending on your interest, I can say, and it was constant dedication, every day writing for 4 or 5 hours and stuff. So it was a grind, daily grind, I can say. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. So now moving on to the last question of the webinar. So like as the journalism has been pretty much diversified in the last 10 years, we have discussed earlier also. So what will be your genuine advices for the students to like how they should be prepared for the future of journalism which is coming up?
See, like I said earlier, the skill they should be having, most importantly, is to try and make sense of what is happening around you. If you do not have the knowledge of what is happening around you, you will not be informed in any way, or you wouldn't have an opinion about anything. So that is one thing. And the second thing is keep asking questions. That's not just for a journalist, but even as a human being, you need to be curious and inquisitive about the things around you. That will actually take your learning to the next level. Whether you're a journalist or not, it doesn't matter. But being a journalist, it's part of your profession to ask questions. But there is also this, I would also say, obviously there is this whole thing about no question is stupid question or things like that.
Yes,
But please, when you're asking questions, think whether it's making sense. For example, I see a lot of this happening in today's media, where people actually go to a patient who's on ventilator and put the mic on his mouth and then ask questions like, how are you feeling?
yes.
So don't be so insensitive to people around you. Think of them as human beings first, because they also have a life. They also have privacy. Their lives also matter. So as much as your profession demands you to ask questions and report the stories, also draw a line about where you want to, how far you want to take it in terms of reporting. And please show that sort of concern to people, because not everyone would like to have camera on their face. And so seeking permission today is very important. So that is something that will be very crucial, because emotional intelligence is something that cannot be taught. It needs to be developed slowly. So I think journalists, a primary prerequisite for the future in any field, including especially for journalists, because they directly interact with people, is emotional intelligence. So yeah, that's one thing I would say. And read a lot, like just read, keep reading a lot. If you read, you know how to put your thoughts together, or your language improves, a lot of things. I mean, your knowledge improves. So reading is a must for any person who wants to get into journalism, media, or any subject. Reading is helpful in any way. So yeah.
Okay. So that's it for today's webinar. That was pretty amazing, Tejaswini. Thank you so much for sharing such an insightful and I can say a very reality-based info, because media, online media is especially one of the things which is being getting very biased, and we are not able to find the right information. That's why students get they get manipulated in some way, or even brainwashed. But I definitely hope that this webinar must have been I can say a kickstart or an eye opener to them. So now we'll be moving to the Q&A round. So mentees, if you have any questions, you can just post them in the Q&A box and we'll be taking some questions.
I think there are questions already.
Yeah, already there are piled up questions. So the first one is from Payal Mukherjee. So she's asking, should a journalist have some opinion or not at all?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The reason I say this is, it's good to always have an opinion about a certain thing, because you can stand for certain issues. You may have opinions, for example, if it's something to do with gender equality or something like that, a very generalized idea I'm just giving. It's very good to stand for those issues. But when it comes to, so you should basically be able to identify what is propaganda and what is news. even for journalists, it's very difficult to identify this. But it's always good to have opinion, but also make sure that it can be flexible. Because when you're in journalism or generally in life too, you generally have a certain perception about things. And then it may not always be your perception of things. So be flexible and open to ideas and changing your opinions, because that means you're learning. So don't be rigid about it. That was something I learned at a later stage in my life. I mean, say first 5 years, I was a bit inflexible in my thinking, I can say. And later, when I started seeing the government and the entire political sector and stuff, it completely changed my perception. So having an opinion is good, but also make sure that it's flexible and you also learn through it.
Like means going with the flow, we can say.
Not really. You don't have to agree to everything.
Okay.
But you can always question it. And state your opinion very clearly. See, you don't have to be aggressive while talking. You can be assertive. That's positive. Aggressive is negative. So there is this difference. So you can obviously have opinions, and it's good to have opinions, because then you start questioning things and stuff and you get more curious, which is a greater learning. But just be open to things. Yeah.
So as you mentioned in the last that, reading is one of the things that we should definitely focus on. The next question is by Aparna. So she's asking that, can you suggest some reading resources or books which are specialized in journalism sector?
So specifically, there's not much in journalism, to be honest. But if you would like to do research and stuff, go on any university's website, any good university's website on journalism. They do have multiple, so basically they do have a lot of tabs, right? In that you would have sources and downloads and publications and stuff. So that can be one thing. The otherwise, see, journalism is an all-encompassing subject. So you don't really have a specific thing guiding you to it. So it gets very difficult if you stick to something, because it's an ever-changing subject too. So the best way is, like I said, go through university guides. Like, basically form your opinion by going through multiple sources. That way it's better, because you'll be better informed also. And you will understand what choice you want to make. See, a lot of it depends on, if you want to study journalism, a lot of it also depends on your budget, and whether you want to move out of the country or stay in the country or move out of your state. And the kind of courses you want, whether you're looking for a PG diploma or a complete 2-year PG, or just a crash course, like a certificate course or something like that. So if you're not really a serious person and do not want a serious, say, journalism sort of thing, but just want exposure to writing and stuff, you can always do online courses and get a sense of it.
So the next question has been asked by Veena Raj. She's asking that, how about getting pursued in a master's in mass communication abroad? So like, do we need any career specification of that, or with the lack of awareness of the country's history also can we work on that?
So I would suggest rather than going for an master's in mass communication, I mean, if you've completed your undergraduation in some other thing, then maybe you can choose master's in mass communication. But if you have not done your bachelor's yet in any way, do a bachelor's in mass communication and master's in a specific field of your interest. Mass communication opens your world to multiple subjects, like I just mentioned earlier: journalism, social media, animation, photography, advertising, filmmaking, audio and video production, television production, filmmaking. So multiple fields like this: PR, theater, acting, all this. So that's at the bachelor stage, you actually get a feel of the kind of interest you have.
Hmm.
And then at the master stage, if you want to do specialization, you can do.
Okay.
That way it's better because you will pursue your line of interest very easily.
Mhm.
If you want to do MA in mass comm, and if that's what you are looking at, that's also a good choice, provided you know what you're looking at in terms of subjects. So because you're trying to get a master's in mass comm, again, it could be a very generalized approach to the whole field.
Mhm.
So if there's any specific area of your interest, you can always do internships in that, so that maybe you can later pursue it. Yeah.
So this is a question by Pamela. He's asking that, as you mentioned, that the future will be belonging to persons rather than the organizations itself. So what are your suggestions and advice to build a personal brand, especially in digital mediums?
It's always good to have that sort of special talent if you do. For example, if it's related to journalism, the easiest one I can think of is blogging. Okay, you don't need a person to set up a blog or anything, or an organization or a journalism degree or anything. You can just write whatever that's in your head, and make sense of it. If it's your personal blog, then it'll be that. If it's something very specific, say for example, it's about a certain field you're interested in, and you want to explore multiple topics about it, you can write that. So through a blog, even your own talent will come out. You will also start noticing the improvements. So for example, if it's writing, and if I will give you my own example, and they can relate to their own examples. For example, I always wrote about political things in my book since 10th class. Okay, so if there was some sort of a scam, I would write my opinion just randomly. Whatever little I knew about it, I would write. And then I would also, that way, then I got to a blog.